Disasters cost the American economy several billions of dollars a year. This may sound like a lot of money, but it's nothing when compared to the greatest cost a disaster can leave in its wake: the loss of human life. Thousands of people die each year, with 4 times as many being injured from the results of the disaster. Much of this cost can be avoided if careful planning is a part of your organization's emergency preparedness plan.
Whether your organization is a government agency, manufacturing facility, warehouse, service center, construction, transportation, healthcare, education, retail, or technology services, the best way to make sure you, your organization, and your family is safe is to be prepared before disaster strikes.
It is your role as a supervisor to inform your organization with policies and procedures concerning emergencies of any kind, whether they are natural disasters, accidental disasters, or intentional disasters.
Your organization may have a perfect safety record. Maybe workplace violence is something that has never occurred in your own community. Maybe you think that terrorist attacks only happen in big cities. Well, what about natural disasters? Has anyone ever been able to tell a tornado that, hey, now is not a good time to rip through our town? Or what about an unexpected fire? Honestly, none of us go to work each day expecting these emergencies to occur, but they do. And if we're not properly prepared for them, they can cost your organization thousands in lost time, productivity, and damage. Or even worse, they could claim the life of a fellow employee, a friend, or maybe even your own.
The Federal Emergency Management Agency, otherwise known as FEMA, suggests that you be prepared for a disaster beforehand, not when it strikes. Throughout this program, we will examine the need for your organization to have an emergency preparedness plan. We will look at your personal roles and responsibilities of being prepared. Some of the emergencies addressed in this video may not apply to your region. Others will, regardless of the disaster. The principles involving preparedness can be used across the board when it simply concerns being prepared.
An emergency, by definition, is a sudden unforeseen crisis, usually involving danger, that requires immediate action. This can include, but not be limited to, natural disasters, such as earthquakes, flooding, hurricanes, tornadoes, snow, and ice storms. They may also include accidental disasters like fires, spilled chemicals, released vapors, workplace tragedies. Other times, they may be intentional acts of disaster, much like acts of terrorism, workplace violence, bomb threats, arson, or employee sabotage. Your organization should be prepared for any of these types of emergencies. Throughout this video, we'll refer to an acronym called YIPPY, which is to help us remember how to prepare for an emergency situation. The Y in YIPPY is for you, your role in emergency preparedness. The I is for identify. Identify the hazard. The first P is for plan. Plan for the potential disaster. And the next P is for prepare. Prepare for the emergency. And the last letter, I, is for implement. Be ready and prepared by implementing your organization's plan for safety prior to as well as at the point of emergency.
None of us go to work each day suspecting our coworkers, contractors, or strangers to burst onto a scene in a violent fit of rage, but it does occur, and your organization needs to be prepared for such an incident.
Yes.
Craig, I don't know if you saw the news last night, but there was another workplace shooting yesterday, and it was pretty bad.
Yeah, I saw it.
We can't keep ignoring this subject. Our employees are getting nervous. I keep getting phone calls asking what our policy is. What do you want me to tell them?
Claudia, I've been doing this job for 35 years, and never in my wildest dreams did I ever think I would have to be concerned about an employee of mine in one of my facilities considering hurting someone.
I know that, but things have changed. We can't ignore it. We need to tell these people what to do. Craig, listen, you know how bad things are for us right now. Wall Street's telling the whole world that we're about to lay people off. And you realize that if someone was actually thinking of taking revenge on that company, that usually they go after the...
I just want to thank you for helping me get that supervisor position.
Not to worry, your father did me a lot of favors in his
About your
day.
pink slip. Upstairs to corporate and talk to the board of directors. Ask them why they think they don't need your services any longer.
You're right, Claudia. You're right. Call all the department heads and set up a meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending. I am sad to say that I am not here under positive directives. Workplace violence has become a major concern for America, and it has become a concern for us as well. We have recently studied the need to educate you and our entire company on the issue and concerns of workplace violence. At the conclusion of this meeting, you will receive your policy and procedures manual. I will summarize the areas in which we will educate our entire staff over the next several weeks. It will be your responsibility to ensure that each employee has received proper training on identifying, reporting, and safely escaping a potential workplace violence emergency.
Let's review Yippee. Your role is identify the potential for workplace violence, analyze departments and personnel that may be under stress, plan to meet with those that seem to be in stressful situations. Stress can be an early warning sign of workplace violence, and provide employees with an opportunity to air out their tension. Prepare your organization to identify fellow employees that may seem stressed out or consistently tense. Implement a procedure for reporting those employees who may need some immediate attention. Provide them, as well as those who are affected by workplace violence, with access to an EAP department or other personnel to work through their emotions. Although the terrorist attack of September 11, 2001 is claimed to have taken the lives of more Americans than the attack on Pearl Harbor, terrorism is not as common in the United States as it is in other countries. But of course, this doesn't suggest that we should be naive to the possibility that terrorists may try to strike at the heart of America once again.
America is composed of many different cultures, each having their unique customs, habits, and dress attire. It is wrong to consider that any person who does not look or act like you might be a terrorist.
But you can help deter potential disaster by having employees stay alert to suspicious behavior. Encourage them to be alert of vendors, consultants, contractors, fellow employees, visitors, and strangers that may be in the building, on the grounds, or even in the parking area. Educate your employees on your organization's policy for reporting suspicious behavior. Keep all conversations confidential to assure them of their safety and respect in coming forward with any information. Let's review Yippee. Your role is identify areas within your organization that may be susceptible to easy access from outsiders, such as vendors, consultants, contractors, visitors, or strangers. Plan to secure those areas as well as important documents and files. And review your organization's computer security, as well as any offices that contain confidential files. Remember that physical buildings aren't the only things that vandals attack. Prepare personnel to properly identify suspicious behavior and report it to their supervisor or to security. Implement better security measures, such as surveillance cameras in high traffic areas, and consider having visitors sign in before proceeding through the facility. The hurricane is considered one of the most dramatic, damaging, and potentially deadliest weather events that occur in the United States. All of the Atlantic and Gulf coastal areas are subject to hurricanes. Although rarely struck by hurricanes, parts of the southwest United States and Pacific coast suffer heavy rains and floods each year from the remnants of hurricanes spawned off of Mexico. Islands such as Hawaii, Guam, American Samoa, and Puerto Rico are also subject to hurricanes. Hurricanes affect inland areas with high winds, floods, as well as tornadoes.
Hey, Patty. I think we need to review our facility's emergency preparedness plan in case of a hurricane or tornado.
Okay. What do we need to look at?
Well, I got this information off the FEMA website, and I think if we put together an action plan and get a few people trained to take care of some of these items before we even consider evacuating the building, I think that with some proper planning in place, that we can reduce casualties and minimize damages.
That makes sense. What were you thinking?
Here, you see these filing cabinets? Now, if we got flooded, all these files would be ruined. What we need to do is make sure that files like these that are in lower drawers get emptied and put in a high, safe place so that they don't have the potential to be ruined.
So when the announcement goes out about a possible evacuation, each employee would be responsible for moving their files from their desk drawers to a higher location within their offices.
What about Larry in graphics? Do you think he might require some special attention in case we need to evacuate the building? And, you know, he's got a unique transportation issue, too.
Yeah. In fact, as part of our evacuation plan training, we should have certain team leaders assigned to help Larry or anyone else who may need special assistance, especially ladies who might be pregnant. Let's talk to Rita in HR and see if she can help keep the team leaders informed as to who might need special attention in case of a crisis.
Okay. We also need to make sure that maintenance trims back the dead branches off the tree out front. Otherwise, the branches could come flying through the window if the wind snapped them off.
I noticed that.
Coffee?
Please. I'll talk to Robbie in maintenance and get that taken care of then. Speaking of broken glass, we should inform everyone in the building to move any objects away from the window in their offices.
Yep. That should be on the checklist that we pass out to each employee. We also need to make sure that maintenance has pre-cut boards of wood to place over the windows. FEMA recommends that we use 5/8" marine plywood. If we plan this right, we should be able to respond quickly to the advancing storm without much panic. They say that complacency and delayed action result in needless loss of life and property damage.
I agree. I wouldn't want the responsibility of a casualty on my head because we didn't spend a few minutes preparing for an emergency.
Let's review Yippee. Your role is identify potential hazards that may be due to a hurricane or tornado, such as flooding or flying debris. Plan ahead by having staff ready to relocate items away from their office windows. Also, consider moving boxes, files, and other stored items from low-lying areas to higher shelves and storage locations. Prepare by having 5/8" marine plywood pre-cut to fit over windows. Trim back weak or dead branches that could break off in high winds and crash through a window. Implement your preparedness plan by providing your organization with evacuation drills, maps to safer locations, and emergency phone numbers.
Is Bob coming in today?
Yes, but he called in and he's stuck in traffic. He's running about 50 minutes behind due to the weather. Okay. He asked me to tell you to start the meeting if everyone else was here, and he'll catch up with you on the details later.
Okay, well then. I want to thank you all for being here on such short notice. I'm sure that we all heard what happened to Bill in finance last night on his way home from work. Well, in case you haven't heard, yesterday when it started to snow, we made the decision to not announce an early dismissal. It's always been our policy when someone is mentioned that they have a long commute to or from work that we would allow them to leave early to avoid any hazards or delays. Unfortunately, Bill was unaware of this policy, and because he is new to the company, he was uncomfortable approaching his supervisor yesterday when it started to get really bad. So apparently he was on his way home from work in a rush to get to his family, and he slid off the road. He's going to be okay, but he won't be back to work for about a week. So, guys, we need to change our policy. Our employees are our greatest resource and our most valuable asset. And last night, we almost lost one of them.
Maggie, you're right. We should do something. A lot of people lose their focus when the weather gets bad, especially when the ice and snow accumulates out there. Then they spend the last few hours thinking about how they're going to get home safely.
That's true, Mark. But I thought that everyone that worked here lived pretty much close by. I never gave it that much thought that people could live that far out. Look, we need to consider that some employees live further away than others. My gosh, there must have been a foot of snow that fell in the hills last night. With the temperatures falling, those roads must have been terrible.
This is a serious issue. So while we've been talking, I've taken down some notes. Maggie is right. Our employees are our most important asset to this company. Jeff, I see your point as well. It is hard for each of us to know the difficulty and distance each of our employees drives to work each day. We need a policy that goes into effect immediately. We'll use our voicemail system as an information system. Employees can call a designated extension and get an update on whether or not we'll be open for business. We will also use it to announce if we will close the plant early or not. This should help those employees who have a difficult time approaching their supervisors about early dismissals. Is everybody clear?
Yes. You bet.
Let's review Yippee. Your role is identify the hazards that involve your workforce during inclement weather. Plan your organization's policy ahead of time. Consider a who, what, when, why, and how approach on addressing a possible facility shutdown or early dismissal due to inclement weather. Prepare your organization for the emergency by training them on your organization's policy and procedures for evacuating the facility. Implement these plans of preparedness by establishing a central communication system, such as a voice mailbox.
According to FEMA, floods and flash floods occur within all 50 states. It is one of the most widespread of all natural disasters, second only to fire. Property damage totals over $1 billion a year from flooding, and 9 of every 10 presidential disaster declarations result from the natural phenomena in which flooding was a major component.
The force of just 6 inches of swiftly moving water can knock people off their feet. Water only 2 feet deep has swept cars away. The power and force of these moving bodies of water should be well respected. If your organization is located in a flood zone, consider a policy, procedure, and training for your staff to evacuate your facility. It's highly recommended that when flooding starts to occur, that you move to higher ground until it is safe to return. Your organization should be familiar with a policy and evacuation procedure when flooding may occur during hours of employment.
Hey, Joe. Hi, Joe. I've been looking at that boy.
All right, now, they've determined that we're in a flood zone here, man. So, we need to begin planning and practicing for a possible flood emergency. Now, here's some of the things we can do. John, see that building over there? Uh-huh. That's the Community Civic Center. Yep. We need to practice getting our people over to that building to get a safe head count. Okay. Now, can you draw up some driving instructions and some plans as to how to get to that building?
Yeah.
And in addition to that, could you work up a little emergency sheet with phone numbers of police, fire, ambulance, and all the pertinent numbers to that community center over there?
Okay. Okay.
Now, Leroy?
Yeah.
See that bank over there?
Yeah.
We need to get these sandbags stacked on that bank over there. And also, we need to check on the pump. Check in the shop to see if we got a pump. Now, in case of a flood emergency, we probably should have a gas-powered pump. So let's check on getting that.
No problem.
Also, would you go see Jill in operations? I know you'd love to do that.
No problem.
And see if she could get us a corporate training session. We need to have a full company-wide training session so we can teach our people how to get to that building over there for a safe head count. And then we can get them all the information, emergency numbers that John's going to work up for us. Can you do that? Appreciate it.
Let's review Yippee. Your role is identify your organization's potential flood zone as well as areas of potential flooding. Plan ahead. Have staff become familiar with emergency locations, evacuation routes, and emergency phone numbers. Prepare for disaster by having pumps and generators available and maintain an ample supply of fuel. Implement your organization's preparedness plan by using sandbags to shore potentially risky areas from overflow.
Hey, Robert.
What's up, Ruben?
Don't you think we should move these cans of chemicals to the floor? I mean, if we get hit with another earthquake and it shakes the shelves good enough, we might have a problem.
I guess you're right, Ruben. Why don't we move those heavy items on the top shelves to the floor? And in fact, as part of our emergency preparedness plan, let's secure those shelving units themselves to the wall. When you go, get Larry to give you a hand.
Okay, Larry.
Let's review Yippee. Your role is identify items that can fall, spill, break, or move. Plan to relocate those items to safer locations. Prepare for an earthquake by securing shelves, filing and storage cabinets, and other tall pieces of furniture like bookcases. Implement employee training on evacuating the facility if it becomes unstable after an earthquake, and include the location of first aid kits and stored water.
Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, it sounds like someone's happy to be here this morning.
Sheesh.
Oh, good morning, Mr. Jackson. Welcome to the Chicago office. Did you have a good flight?
Yes, I did. Thank you very much.
Well, we're glad to have you here this morning.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I think you all know while you're here this morning, as part of our ongoing emergency preparedness plan, we all need to be aware of some of the basics in case of fire. I've prepared a training log for this week, and each day one of us will take turns teaching the others on your prepared topic.
What? You mean like I gotta get up there and make a speech?
No, you can stay right at your seat.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. Well, let's start with the warehouse storage. And Steve and Daryl, I'd like for the two of you to work on locating all those materials stored in the warehouse that could cause a fire or could contaminate the environment in case of fire.
All right.
Also, we need to have a plan for the safe storage and handling of all those flammable liquids and gases.
You are definitely the gas man.
Okay. And lastly, we need to provide some procedures to prevent the accumulation of combustible materials. Okay? All right. Any questions on that?
No.
Okay, great. Okay, and fire extinguishers. Joe, that would be you. I'd like for you to locate all of the fire extinguishers throughout the building and check to see when they were last inspected. Also, we need to have the sprinklers, smoke detectors, and fire alarms identified and tested.
Not a problem.
All right, great, thank you. That takes us to our evacuation procedures. Lynn, I'd like for you to make up a plan for each department, and I'd like for you to provide each employee in that department with a map of their department's exit plan.
Okay.
Okay? And also we need to have those maps posted throughout the facility. And lastly, we need to make sure that all of our halls, stairs, and exits are completely clear of debris.
Okay, I'll work with facilities on that.
Okay, great, thanks so much. Lastly is our utility shutoff valves. Steve, you're the man for that. I'd like for you to locate all of the utility shutoff valves. That would include the electric, water, and gas coming into the building.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Oh, and Steve, will you please contact the local fire department and schedule a time this week for them to come and do an inspection to check for any potential hazards?
Yes, I will.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, that's about it. Let's meet again at the same time next Monday. And oh wait, do we have any questions?
Where can I find some good pizza in Chicago?
We have great pizza everywhere in Chicago. Okay, everyone, let's meet again at this same time next Monday. And at that time, we're going to start with Steve, and we're going to have him.
Let's review Yippee. Your role is identify potential fire hazards, such as hazardous chemicals and materials that can cause a fire or contaminate the environment during a fire. Plan ahead. Have an evacuation plan. Take measures to prevent the accumulation of combustible materials. Safely store flammable liquids and gases. Locate main valves and switches, including the emergency shutoff for electric, water, and gas. Prepare by routine checking of fire extinguishers, smoke detectors, and alarms. Provide evacuation maps to employees. Implement your preparedness plan by providing employee training on how to evacuate, as well as the use of fire extinguishers.
If your organization has mission-critical systems such as data storage, life support systems, utility services, or equipment that is needed to keep your business in operation, it is vital that each department that may be affected by this technological emergency work together to consider alternatives in order to sustain operations while these mainline services are disrupted.
Identify all mission-critical operations. Some items for utilities are electric power, gas, water, hydraulics, compressed air, municipal and internal sewer systems, and wastewater treatment services. Other critical operations include security and alarm systems, elevators, lighting, life support systems, heating, ventilation and air conditioning systems, electrical distribution systems, manufacturing equipment, pollution control equipment, communication systems, both data and voice computer networks, transportation systems, including air, highway, railroad, and waterway.
Consider the impact of service disruption on each of these potential mission-critical items. Ensure that key safety and maintenance personnel are thoroughly familiar with all building systems. Establish procedures for restoring systems if they do go out of service. At the same time, determine your need for backup systems. Consider and establish preventative maintenance schedules on all equipment and systems to avoid having them go out and create their own technological emergency.
Let's review Yippee. Your role is identify your organization's mission-critical systems. Plan on installing backup systems and procedures to maintain a possible zero downtime attitude. Prepare the proper personnel to switch over mission-critical functions to alternate power sources or locations. Implement scheduled testing of mission-critical systems.
It should be your goal, as well as your organization's goal, to return to normal operations as soon as possible. An organization that is well prepared for an emergency is one that is well prepared to get back to functioning normally rather quickly.
Emergency preparedness training is not something you do, but rather something you are. You are prepared for an emergency. The success of your emergency preparedness plan, along with all of the preparation and training, may never be realized. You may never see any of these items acted out within your own organization. But, of course, it is better to be safe than sorry when it comes to human life. Review your plan frequently with your staff. Practice your plan with drills and follow up on the checklists. These small steps will ensure that your organization is well prepared for any type of emergency.